Have you ever heard the sound of a crowd going mad in the face of death? Imagine that. Now imagine the opposite, a whisper, almost inaudible. But among the corridors of the Colosseum, it was he who chilled the spines of the gladiators. It was not the sound of the swords, nor of the audience, nor of the emperor. It was a warning, repeated by generations of slaves. Whoever wins too much, he dies early. The people saw the spectacle, but the men in sweaty armor and tired eyes knew glory was a trap. Fame was not a prize. It was a sentence. While Rome applauded the blood on the sand, down in the damp, dark corridors, the gladiators whispered about something they never dared to shout aloud: a curse. But it was not the work of the gods. It was the work of the empire itself. What happened to the champions? Why did so many disappear without a trace? Get ready. What you will hear has been buried for centuries under stone, fear, and silence. If that whisper ever sent shivers down your spine, Rome was a propaganda machine. He created myths, shaped narratives, and buried the facts that did not serve his glory. To the people, gladiators were tragic heroes, brave, strong, victorious. But what happened when a slave began to outshine the emperor himself? The system that exalted them was the same one that destroyed them. Behind the choreographed fights and the screams of crowds was a cruel truth. Victory was not welcome for long. Many gladiators preferred to lose. They would rather die in combat than face the fate reserved for those who won too much. The question that echoes to this day is, why? Why did Rome hide the names of these men? Why did it erase their stories from the stones, the scrolls, and the collective memory? In this video, you won't see the Colosseum that tourists know. Go see the dark backstage of an empire that made death a spectacle, and the truth a secret. If you've come this far, it's because you feel that there's something beyond the version you've always been told. So don't just watch, react. Like this video right now, every like is a blow against oblivion. And if you want to continue discovering the secrets that Rome tried to bury, subscribe to the channel now. Here, history is not censored. Here, the truth breathes. You're not watching another video. You are digging up what has been silenced for centuries. There was an invisible count among the gladiators. It was not taught in schools, nor recorded on papyri. It was spent between looks, murmurs, and scars. The rule was clear: win once, you survive. Win two, you start to attract attention. But win three, and you become a target. Some believed it was superstition. Others knew it was standard. Scarce records show a chilling detail. Many gladiators disappeared after the third consecutive victory, not killed in the arena, but disappeared outside it. Rome could not stand stars that they could not control. The public could love these men, but the empire feared. He feared that a slave, acclaimed by thousands, would begin to see his value. He feared that hope would arise in the middle of the bloody sand. Therefore, what seemed like a reward was in fact a trap. The third victory was the limit, the kiss of death. You didn't have to be emperor to have someone killed in Rome. You just had to influence the narrative, and some gladiators began to become too dangerous to stay alive. Among the hidden papers of the imperial bureaucracy, modern scholars have found mentions of something feared, a blacklist. It was not official, it didn't have a stamp, but its effects were lethal. Names circulated in the shadows, men who were winning too much, talking too much, listening to what they shouldn't have backstage. Gladiators who, by force of fate, crossed paths with senators, generals, and even spies. They saw things. They listened to conspiracies. They knew more than they should. And so, they disappeared. They disappeared silently, surgically, without protest. Because Rome, above all, feared losing control. These men were no longer just warriors. They became threats, and threats could not continue to breathe. When you hear the name Spartacus, what comes to mind? rebellion, courage, freedom. That's what Rome allowed you to know. But the truth is much deeper and much darker. Spartacus did not rebel only for freedom. He saw, with his own eyes, what happened to gladiators who won too much. He understood the cycle. You please the people, then it bothers the Senate. You become a symbol, then it becomes a problem. Spartacus's revolt was not only against shackles, it was against the system that crushed heroes and spat out forgotten corpses. He realized that there was no individual escape, only a total break. And Rome? He tried to distort everything. It turned Spartacus into a folkloric character, a disorganized rebel, a veiled warning. But what really hurt was what he knew and what he tried to reveal. His cry was not only for freedom, but for denunciation. There was something that united the gladiators beyond the blood and the arena. Silence. It wasn't just fear, it was strategy, an invisible pact sealed in the depths of the Colosseum. They didn't talk about what they saw. They did not mention the bodies that disappeared. They did not count the visits of elite officers to the secret corridors. Some say it was superstition, others that it was survival. They said that anyone who broke the silence was haunted, not by ghosts, but by soldiers. It was an iron agreement between the men in chains to protect the secrets, not out of loyalty to Rome, but out of veiled revenge against her. They could not beat the empire in shouting, so they used silence as a weapon. And over time, this silence became a curse. Rome no longer needed to kill. It was enough to let fear speak for her. And the scariest thing? This worked for centuries. What the audience saw was only the stage. But beneath the arena, hidden from the sunlight, existed another world, a labyrinth of cold, damp, fetid corridors. It was there that the real horror began. There, between cages of beasts and stone cells, gladiators awaited their fate. Some went up to the arena, they were never seen again. Modern excavations have revealed something disturbing. Skeletons with marks of execution, not combat. Bodies lined up in closed chambers. These tunnels were more than behind the scenes. They were living cemeteries. Many gladiators died there, not in front of the people, but in oblivion, in darkness, as if they had never existed. There was no glory, nor honor, just silence. Rome sold the spectacle of death, but hid the deaths it could not justify. These tunnels were the collective tombstone of those who knew too much. And the Colosseum, he kept roaring as if nothing had happened. Among all the stories suppressed by the empire, one resists like a rebellious whisper in time, that of a gladiator who won more than 10 times. He didn't just challenge the system, he survived it. It is said that he escaped during a shift change when a fire distracted the guards. He changed his name, fled to a village in Campania, and wrote memoirs on parchment hidden in the walls of an old brickyard. Centuries later, archaeologists found fragments of these texts. They reported secrets of the Colosseum's underground, mentions of the blacklist, and names that were never inscribed on the marble of glory. But the most disturbing thing was this. The author's name had been corroded with acid, deliberately erased. The empire knew, and he did not forgive survivors. Rome couldn't admit that anyone had won the game and fled from it. This man lived, but the official story killed him. Rome did not need to burn books. She burned the names. His real weapon was not the gladius, it was selective memory. She eternalized what glorified her and erased what embarrassed her. How many gladiators were murdered without injury? How many champions disappeared without a grave? How many heroes have been demoted to invisible stats? Rome knew how to shape the narrative. He knew how to write history and delete the inconvenient paragraphs. Gladiators who dared to be more than pawns were turned into ghosts. Many were not killed by swords, but by oblivion. And that was the royal curse, to die without a trace, a punishment that lasted beyond death, a millennial, planned, cruel cancellation. The Colosseum became a ruin, but the silence he built still echoes. The gladiatorial curse was not mystical. It was politics. It was the price for shining too brightly in an empire that did not share the throne even with its own idols. Now that everything has been exposed, do you still believe that gladiators were just warriors seeking glory? Behind the golden sand, the gleaming marble, and the crazed applause, there was a cruel cog that crushed the men who dared to shine. The gladiatorial curse was not a spell. It was the punishment of fame in an empire that could not tolerate light outside the palace. They were used, exalted, after deleted, and Rome, which loved to tell stories so much, chose to silence precisely those that most deserved to be heard. But today, the echoes of those forgotten names come back to the surface, through the ruins, through the manuscripts, through the bones found underground. The truth is like this. She waits. It resurfaces. She charges. Glory built on suffering always demands a price. And oblivion? It will never be eternal if someone decides to remember. If that video has given you something, a new vision, a doubt you've awakened, or even a wound you've healed, then reciprocate it with a simple but powerful gesture. Enjoy this video as someone who recognizes the value of truth, and subscribe to the channel, not as someone who just passes by, but as someone who has been touched and no longer wants to live trapped in the fabricated version of history. Here, each inscription is an alliance with transformation. Have you been impacted? Then help this content to impact more people. Because when a truth is revealed, it can never be buried again.